Hello, and welcome to episode 398 of the Sunday New York Times Read Along with Neil Parekh and Sreenivasan. We are live on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and our Digimentors website. Please like, comment, share, retweet, do all the things you do to make sure people find today's show. We'll be covering several issues, including looking at the New York Times World Cup preview. We have a special PDF on our website that you can access. If you go to tinyurl.com/NYTR World Cup, lowercase, NYTR World Cup. We will share that again later in the comments as well. We'll also be talking about voting rights and the turmoil at 60 Minutes and all the latest news. Thank you everyone for who's watching the replay. We know that 8:30 a.m. is not always the 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. It's not always the best time for folks. So we appreciate everyone who's coming back to watch the very beginning of the show. We want to do a quick shout out to our sponsors, Muckrack and Graphic History Company. Thank you for your longtime support of this show. To our friends at Muckrack and Graphic History Company, they joined us this year as a sponsor, so we want to thank them as well. The show, of course, is produced by Digimentors, the social and digital consulting firm that Sree started with his good friend Andrew Lee several years ago. We do digital marketing, events, and digital programs like this, strategic communications, trainings and workshops. We also help with staffing and recruiting. We're also doing a lot of work around AI, which Sree can talk about a little bit later. Let's go ahead and welcome some of the folks who are watching. And if you are watching, make sure you let us know where you're watching from, and give us a quick hello. Ted is watching from Capitol Hill in DC, watching on YouTube. Thanks, Ted. Always great to have you. John is watching from the East Village and sends his greetings. Our friend Apollo is watching from Philadelphia, offering a good morning there. Gunther is watching from Austria, our international crowd. And I'm sure that, Gunther, you'll be particularly interested in our World Cup conversation today. Remember to get the PDF of that special preview from our website. Dan Foreman is watching. It's a beautiful day in North Jersey. If we're going to start talking about the weather, Dan, I stepped out to get the paper from my driveway, and I probably stepped out about 8 o'clock. It's already hot, so I think we're pushing the 90s again today. I'm hoping it's a little cooler up where you are. Ken Fisher is thinning garden carrots in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. It's always fun to talk weather with Ken, particularly in the winter where it's usually much colder and usually dealing with snow. But I do remember several times Ken went out early to shovel the snow so that he could come back and watch the show. Doug Levy is watching from beautiful San Francisco Bay Area, and it's at 5:30 a.m. Eastern time for him. So thank you, Doug. With that, we'll bring on my co-host, Sreenivasan. Sree, good to see you.
Good morning, Neil. I have been looking through this incredible gift that you can get from our website. This is the World Cup Special Edition. This is the print edition. You can find the online version, but you can only get the PDF in the way that Neil will tell you how to get it. So everyone pay attention and find it. Neil, let's tell them again how to find this while I read some more. So cool.
Absolutely. You can find it. The direct link, go to tinyurl.com /NYT World Cup, all lowercase. NYTR World Cup, all lowercase. I'll put that link in the various channels for you. You can also go to our website if it's easier. Go to digimentors.group and /NYT read along and find today's show, and you'll get that PDF. Definitely worth it.
And this is an exclusive that the Times team sends to us, and we're so grateful to be able to share that with you. Download it, send it to your friends on WhatsApp or text or email. They would definitely appreciate it. Not only does it have its coverage, there's also an ad here, Neil, for a new book, The 100 Players Indefinite Debates, the definitive ranking of soccer's greatest icons, the Soccer 100, and it's from The Athletic, which is, of course, the successor to the New York Times Sports Desk and the startup that the New York Times bought and now has integrated Oliver Kay and James Horncastle with the Athletic soccer staff. And that's how much soccer coverage has changed in America, that the New York Times is a whole soccer staff, not just one person writing about soccer, but many, many more people. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. We do this Sunday mornings, 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. Eastern. We're also on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. So if you prefer to listen to a recording and on the audio side, please go check it out. And please give us a review there and 5 stars if you can. We have so much to go through, Neil, with the news, and there's so much going on. I want to make sure that we just take a quick look at yesterday's front page of the New York Times, because I want to make a point about how people consider and look at the news. So here is the front page lead stories about Labor Department data show job market resisting shocks. And one of the interesting things about that is the stock market fell on Friday because they're worried that interest rates will go up. So even though this was good news, the stock market fell. But the point I want to make is about this story here about Graham Plattner, who you know is the Democratic candidate for Senate in Maine, looking to take out of the Senate Susan Collins, who has always portrayed herself as a progressive Republican, whatever that means, or a moderate Republican, I think is the right term, moderate Republican, but has voted for Kavanaugh, has supported Trump, has done almost everything that Trump has wanted. So here's Graham Plattner running for office, and he has had many issues along the way. He's a veteran who had some kind of Nazi-type tattoo on his body he had to explain away. And now in the final months of the race, there's a series of in-depth, powerfully reported stories by the New York Times on his behavior with women. And this one is, Plattner could be unsettling, some women say, recalling Maine Senate candidates' charm and volatility. These stories absolutely need to get out there, and they are absolutely valid journalism and important investigative journalism by the New York Times. But the point I want to make, Neil, is whenever anyone says to me the New York Times is a liberal paper and just does liberal stories all the time, this is proof, because on the other side, there is no consistent reporting or even mentions of anything that conservatives don't like on a regular basis, right? And that's a distinction in how you should think about the media in America. I see this every day and I want to hear your thoughts, but I see this every day with Zohran Mamdani's, first his nomination, then his election, and now his mayoralty, where there are people who cover the mayor, like regular journalists, who point out problems and also point out when things are successful. And then there's an entire right-wing machine, including the New York Post, and especially the New York Post, that covers him every day in the most negative way possible. If that had been a Republican mayor, there would be no such coverage. Your thoughts?
So this is a very challenging issue. I mean, when you look at the politics and how close the race is this year, where every seat matters, and the establishment candidate, if you will, Governor Mills, dropped out of the primary because she just wasn't gaining traction with younger voters, and this was clearly seen as a potential, a hopeful win for the Democrats against Susan Collins, who's been anything but moderate when it comes to her actual votes. It's a classic question for Democrats. Do you swallow all of these negative issues, his past, his tattoos, but now all of the allegations of unwanted advances, etc., or do you abandon him and stay home and let the chips fall where they may. I have to say, Sree, I lean toward, not supporting someone like Plantner, but it's a hard pill to swallow when you look at all the impact. I mean, imagine the difference of having 51 votes in the Senate, and the check that would be against Trump's agenda. But is it worth it? Is it worth it?
Yeah, this is very, very well put, Neil. I think that one of the things that we've been saying about the Democratic Party is they need younger candidates. He's a younger candidate. They need people who aren't career politicians. He's not a career politician. So it's almost like the main Democratic Party did somewhat the right things, but didn't vet him strongly enough. And there's no reason why a sitting governor, a successful sitting governor, should not have been the candidate against Susan Collins. But here we are. And this is so if you set aside the politics for a second, I want to go back to this point about the New York Times being a liberal publication. Their news, they follow the news where it leads, and it will lead in ways where liberals will be unhappy, Republicans will be unhappy. But to always say it's always liberal is problematic, as we can see from just this one story, or the very aggressive coverage of Bill Clinton and his problems in his second term, which led to everything that followed, including George Bush. So
I was going to say it is interesting as we're having this discussion to note that over the weekend, former Senator Bob Packwood passed away. And for folks who may remember the history, well before the Me Too movement back in the mid 90s, Senator Packwood was eventually forced out of office. It took 3 years after the allegations came out, but he was forced out of office for a number of sexual advances and inappropriate relationships with staff. He actually kept a journal where he noted his conquests. He had something. He said something like he had 20 different women that he had taken to bed on his staff, up to 75 total. And it still took 3 years for Republicans to walk away from him, but they did eventually do that. I'd be curious to see what Fox News's coverage of that was at the time. But he passed away over the weekend.
Folks, that's Neil Parekh. I'm Sreenivasan, and Diane Stefani is watching from spin class. Thank you for watching, and I'm glad you're getting your exercise. We said hello already to Doug Levy, but I want to say he's watching at 5:30 a.m. as he usually does. We were on the same time zone, but we're not able to connect last week. Deborah Kerr is watching from Western North Carolina, where it's in the 60s in Asheville. Looking forward to the show. Thank you, Deb, for being here. Asheville, North Carolina is the home of a restaurant that was named one of the best restaurant in America, and it was an Indian restaurant in Asheville, North Carolina. Stephen Kaplan says, good morning to the Read Along family. Hope everyone is well. On my way in a bit to the Governor's Ball with my son to check out ASAP Rocky. Wish me luck. Major crowds, no storms. Hopefully have a great day all. Governor's Ball is on Governor's Island, I believe, or maybe it's on Randall's Island. I don't know, but it's a big concert, and ASAP Rocky and others will be there. Sudha Parekh is watching. Hi, Auntie. Great to have you here.
Great to have you here, Auntie. Always great to see you Mom. Sorry, Mom. Always good to, thank you. Always love seeing you tune in, and appreciate all of the support you've given us over the years.
And want to say that I used to love it when my mom would watch from India during the COVID show or the read along. The timing works great for India too. She passed away 3 years ago, but she's always with me and whenever we do these. Patricia is watching. Grace and greetings from New York. And Doug says, I'm hoping the World Cup games will be an inspiring and exciting distraction from all the other news. World and national events are still important, but sports can bring people together for some good. I just wish the ticket prices were anywhere accessible for people. You've heard of some of the ridiculous pricing, hundreds of dollars for the worst seats.
I think one of the challenges, though, with the World Cup is that we're not going to be able to escape politics with the current administration denying visas to staff from various teams. The Iranian team is staying in Mexico instead of staying in the U.S. Because of concerns about how they'll be received. There was also talk about shutting down immigration, I think, or something about the airports in democratic cities that happen to be hosting the World Cup games. I mean, I just don't think, unfortunately, that we're going to be able to escape politics with this World Cup.
I know what you mean, and that story was Mark Wayne Mullen, the new Secretary of Homeland Security, was mulling the idea of shutting down immigration services, and therefore no TSA and no immigration officers. So not TSA, no immigration officers in international airports in sanctuary cities. So imagine Chicago, LA, New York, which are all hosting important World Cup games, not allowing anybody to come in internationally. It just doesn't make any sense. And there's also another example of when we have terrible folks in jobs run by the administration, they are often, and we want them gone, they're often replaced by worse people, if that's even possible, as we've seen with Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche, who's replaced her, and all of this stuff is problematic. Folks, we are going to be reading the paper together, and we're going to hear from you. Tell us what you're thinking about with the news, and also what you're doing on a Sunday. Some of you are already Sunday evening, Sunday night, but if you're still out and about or you're planning your day, let us know that as well. Let's take a look at the front page of the paper. The Sunday front page, I showed you the Saturday front page. The lead story is win for Trump in a long feud with the IRS, keeps audit immunity and enormously valuable benefit for a president and his family. Guess who runs the IRS? Somebody who reports to Donald Trump. Deportations cramp courts around U.S., worry over due process as caseloads surge. So not only are they increasing deportations, the amount of time you're stuck to get a terrible result is longer. So that's worse. If people were allowed to be with their families, that would be a different story. And this photograph is at school, apps push teens to stay on screens. Tech giants made students their targets, files show. A school day in San Mateo, California, more than 1,400 school districts have filed lawsuits against leading social media companies. I had missed this story completely. I know about the cell phone ban that Raj Goyal, our friend fought, who was on our show, fought to bring to New York City. And there are a lot of cell phone bans up to, in school phone, to what they call bell-to-bell bans. But Neil, as a parent of a 13-year-old, do you know this story?
Yeah, no, I hadn't seen that myself. I know that I've seen several articles recently about schools, regretting their decisions about letting, computers and tablets and tech into the schools in general, kind of turning over instruction to, with devices rather than paper and pencil. But I had not seen this story yet.
Yeah, so I also thought it was about the educational apps, but it's not. Snapchat sent phone alerts to adolescents during school hours, urging them to share what was going on in their classrooms. Meta paid teen ambassadors to promote Instagram and hand out swag to their friends at school. TikTok gave the National PTA millions of dollars, in part to throw school events about online safety and provide favorable comment to journalists. This is, I believe this is kind of an investigative story. Jennifer Valentino DeVry is the author of this, is the writer of the story. So I want to see more about that.
I would also say, Sree, just to note, you talked about some of the largest, most popular social media sites, Snapchat, Facebook less so obviously for younger kids, but Instagram. But I wouldn't sleep on Pinterest. And we could talk to our friend Bob Anthony about this. But Pinterest is something that younger children are using pretty frequently, at least in my neighborhood, and looking that way across that wall is where my daughter's room is. But they're using Pinterest, to share memes, to share images, links, chatting with each other. So it's something that we are not. I don't think that we've fully understood the impact of social media and how it's being used by and against our children.
Yeah, well, I did not know about Pinterest. Bob, you're right, has 1 million followers on Pinterest. And you can find him, Robert Anthony's Paper PC there. Trusted tellers shield clients from scams. So these are trusted, I guess, bank tellers. So this is a way to stand out if you're a bank, where your bank tellers will help you if you're elderly or susceptible to scams. Your tellers will help your bank tellers. And here's another technology or modernity versus ancient days. There are jobs in England called Thatchers, not Margaret Thatcher, but roof Thatchers. And there are 800 of them, like Christopher Essex, and it's tradition versus adaptation. They're deciding whether to use straw or reed in England. What an unusual story. And Democrats' dilemma: preserve diversity or pursue more seats. This goes back to the political conversation we were having earlier. What kinds of folks do they want in the seats, especially now that the Trump administration is making sure that various states are gerrymandering districts to remove as many black districts as possible. So do you keep fighting by putting up black candidates, or now knowing that it's less black, the electorate is less black in a particular place, do you put in more white candidates? And imagine having to make these decisions in 2026.
There are two parts to that conversation, Sree. One is with the gerrymandering that the Republicans have done. Florida is a great example where there's a district that has been represented by African American for a number of years. They redistricted it to include a nearby Congresswoman, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who used to be the DNC chairwoman. She decided to run in that district, raising the ire of local black politicians. So that's one thing. But the other aspect of this, I think, is actually more on the Democratic side when they're doing their own redistricting. When, looking at Maryland and California, other blue states, where, several people are saying we can't, if the Republicans are going to do it, we're going to have to do it as well to try and try and mitigate the impact. And so when they draw their lines, the question is, if you spread out the black vote a little bit more to get more Democrats in other districts, that's going to be the question of whether or not you're diluting the black representation in order to get more Democratic representation. So it's actually a really challenging issue. And again, it goes to that question that we were talking about before. And you mentioned, Mark Wayne Mullen and the immigration, potentially messing with immigration services in sanctuary cities. Is the overall goal to have a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate as a check against these policies? Or should we preserve representations for black Americans who have fought for 60 years and who have many people have died for this right to vote and this right to representation? There are no easy answers here.
They're not. Folks, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us how your Sunday is going. Tell us where you're watching from. And if you aren't on Neil's mailing list, what he does is once a week, he will tell you what's coming up and also give you the PDF that he sends out and we put up on our website. So make sure you sign up, neil@digimentors.group. Just write to him, and it's very low volume, and you will know what we're covering and what's coming up. And by the way, we're at episode 398, Neil. That means we're 2 away from the 400th episode over our 10 years, which is amazing, even if as I say it. When do we hit 400?
We will hit that on June 28th. We'll have episode 399 next week. We will take June 21st off for Father's Day, so we can take a breath and prepare for that 400th episode, which will be at the end of this month. So make sure to join us over the next few weeks. It's incredible to get to 400. I'd have to check my notes, Sree, but I started working with you about a year and a half into your run doing the read along when you first took the paper and dropped it on your coffee table. Say let's see how Facebook Live works, and we may as well look at the newspaper. And we've come a long way.
Yeah, we have, and the world has changed. And by the way, Facebook, one of the things it does now is after a month, it just deletes videos. And so we don't have records of the very first episodes that we did, which is a real pity, but that's Facebook kind of just doing whatever it wants because it can. I want to just put on here our camera.
Oops. Sure.
Let's make sure
Great. And you just need to unmute on.
Yes, there you go.
There we go.
Okay, so you can hear me, and I can show you the New York Times other sections of the paper because there's so much to look at. This is the Sunday opinion section of the paper. Let me just make sure you folks can see it. And
so, Sree, I'll just interrupt you real quick. Your volume is really low coming through the phone. Oh. You may want to switch to the desktop instead.
Fun with technology.
Yep.
Okay.
Try that.
Yeah, is that better?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Neil. This is why we always have to work on making sure, trying to get the tech to work. All right, Sunday Opinion. The cover is the sweeping destruction of Black political power, just what we were talking about. All Americans everywhere have a deep stake in what happens to voters in the South. Mara Gay's piece, look, it's very powerful. And it says, we need a menopause health revolution in America. Too many women are left to face sleepless nights. An AI-created dating show with a cast of aggressively sexualized fruit has surpassed 100 million views. This is not a good sign. Okay, that's
10 million views. And one thing, Sree, I want to mention with the menopause piece, that was written by Melinda French Gates, which I thought was very interesting. And Washington State just passed legislation forcing companies to make to change policies to make it easier for women in the workplace who are dealing with menopause. So there's some progress, certainly.
And one way to look at that is maternal health and pregnancies and things are not something every woman will go through, but every woman will go through menopause at some point. And so as employers, addressing that is really good. Here's Maureen Dowd's column. Norma Jean still got it. Norma Jean, of course, is Norma Jean Baker, who became Marilyn Monroe. I don't know. I guess it's her 100th birth. It would be, she would have been 100 years old, I guess. Some continue to like it hot is her subhead there. And what would Lincoln do? America broke something when it chose Trump again. And AI critics must play a long game. Sharp and specific warnings may help tame the inevitable. Florida centrist, MAGA warrior, shapeshifter, president. This is about Marco Rubio. Neil, you're shaking your head.
Oh, I'm shaking my head at Marco Rubio. That's all it needs.
Washington needs to account for its bad wars. Which are its good wars, by the way? We should make a very short list of its good wars. Expect more foreign policy catastrophes unless we hold those in power accountable. This is Peter Beinart. And menopause should not be such a mystery. And you said it was written by Melinda Gates. Melinda French Gates. That's
I would say your question about good wars, Sree, we'd have to look back, but since World War II, has any war had the same kind of moral clarity as World War II, as when the world came together to fight Hitler? I can't think of one.
I'm thinking. Let us know in the comments, folks, which has there been an American war that was just or can be defended? Forget just. Can be defended, and so to speak. M. Gessen won the Pulitzer Prize this year. Trump's aliens website is a dangerous troll. I didn't know this. There's an aliens website that the government has made. It's a web page posted on on May 28th. And the scary creatures are aliens, but not aliens from outer space, but immigrants, and they're being hunted twice. I did not know about this.
Sree, let's take a moment because I think it's worth sharing with our viewers what this looks like. It's actually creepy. I think that's the only thing I can describe it as. We'll take this little news and update, but this is their aliens website, whitehouse.gov/aliens. It's, to keep it at this, I'm assuming these are Area 51 extraterrestrial aliens. They've been walking among us, living in our neighborhoods. They shop in the same stores, attend the same classes as our children. This is all outer space with the theme millions arrived under the cover of darkness.
And the color and the green
the
and
colors, all this.
Yeah.
And only one man finally had the courage to tell the truth. President Trump was the first to call out the real danger aliens pose to every American family. The truth is no longer out there. It is right here, right now. This is such an X-Files
oh my God, it's so upsetting. So upsetting.
Look at this aliens arrest map live with detail on. Oh my God.
This is really upsetting. Wow. Neil, we should make sure we clip this and then share this, because people need to see how atrocious this is. And this is
report suspicious aliens, ICE tip line. If they weren't little green men, these aliens are the millions of illegals who invaded. Or if you hadn't understood the point yet, they put it right there. Mm-hmm. It's not little green men. It's effectively, little brown men, frankly, for the most part. Wow. This is what our White House is doing.
This is spending money to make things crap like this, but this just, as M. Gesson says, makes things worse for all immigrants, and even people who are not immigrants, children of immigrants, people who are 5 generations, 10 generations living in America are going to be targeted because of stuff like this. I just had a flash, Neil, to a column I wrote 25 years ago about the Oscars. And do you remember when the Oscars had a lot of Indian stuff going on for a couple of years? Shekhar Kapoor directed Elizabeth. There was Slumdog Millionaire won Oscar after Oscar. And I wrote an essay about being a young kid on the Upper East Side at a school where I got harassed and bullied the morning after the Oscars in 1982-83 because this was 83, because E.T. did not win Best Picture and Gandhi won Best Picture. And I used the line in that essay, I'm just remembering from 25 years ago, that they were unhappy that that something about like the brown man, meaning Gandhi, did not beat the alien, the green alien, or something like that. So they're making that same thing now all these years later. And I'm sorry to kind of just try to remember this on the fly, but I'm so upset by what you just showed us, Neil. Thank you for pulling that out. Well, is it like aliens.gov or something horrible like that too?
It's literally whitehouse.gov/aliens.
Terrible.
Whitehouse.gov/aliens. Yeah. I wanted to, Ouch My Freedoms, who's watching on YouTube Shorts, says it would be hilarious if it wasn't fascist, which is pretty good. A pretty good point there. Deborah Kerr gives just a face smack, and Sojana Chandrasekhar is reading the paper. I assume she means the hard copy, and watching us with her parents. Sojana, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you, and hello to the Chandrasekhar family, 2 doctors in their 90s who have done so much for not just their patients, but also the community, the Indian American community in New York, but also for New York and America, just the best of immigrants in this country. They, speaking of Gandhi, they helped erect the Gandhi statue in Union Square Park and built the Hindu temple in Flushing. Just amazing work that they did, and I'm glad that they're watching.
Her father helped bring the India Day Parade to New York back in 1980. My parents worked closely with him on that. I've known Sujana's father since then, and also her mom is a veteran, so we should also thank her for her service to this country.
I totally agree. Folks, we are doing the New York Times read along. We just took a little sidetrack. We got sidetracked because of this terrible website from the government. Let's see what else is in the paper today.
Sujana says, it was my favorite line from the movie Alien when the Hispanic woman was told she signed up because she thought it was for illegal aliens. If you don't laugh, you'll cry and scream.
Yep.
And Miriam says, White House perpetrating more garbage with the aliens story and website.
Here's Lebanon is fed up and ready to remake itself. This is Lydia Polgreen's piece, very important. And yeah, look at what's happening in Lebanon. Just look at these pictures of the terrible damage that's there. And Israel is using the Iran war as an excuse to conduct bombings on a daily basis. Fruit Love Island is a vision of our dystopian future. AI slop has invaded our social media feeds and united us in disgust. So this is where, your children might be like, oh, we're watching a fruit show. And then you don't realize that it's Fruit Love Island, where a cast of aggressively sexualized fruit has surpassed 10 million views. And the World Cup is starting soon. Why does no one care? Global sports culture and a divided nationalism have changed soccer fandom. Davis Wallace Wells. Is that true, though, that nobody cares? Paulo suggested that given Trump's anti-immigration behavior, I wonder if the World Cup will be a flop. I think it'll be very unlikely that it'll be a flop because people just care so much. So I'm surprised that David Wallace Wells is wording it that way. Naomi says, salutations from Rhode Island, another scorcher, not a dry heat either. And Vinay is watching from, Vinay says, good morning, thank you.
And I want to go back to an earlier conversation, Sree, when we were talking about America's wars and, which ones may have been, just might be a too strong a word, but of course we talked about World War II and fighting Hitler. My cousin Anish is watching on Instagram. He's from Canada, and he reminded us that the Korean War may fall in that category in terms of stopping North Korea and the communists from taking over the Korean Peninsula. That is a potential. I certainly wouldn't go that far with Vietnam, but if anything comes close over the last 80 years, maybe Korea would fall in that category. Not sure what else would.
Well, I would just say about that the idea that everything Korea, everything communism was worth sacrificing people is something that's questionable, right? So what I would tell Anish, first of all, thank you for watching, and thank you for watching on Instagram, and thank you for responding. I think everyone should see either MASH the movie or MASH the TV series, which at its time was the most popular finale in the history of American television, to understand how terrible that war was on a daily basis, and kind of the pointlessness of it. You're right. You could make the same thing about Vietnam, that, the communists are going to come and we've got to stop them. But the sacrifice and the price that was paid for those choices was also important. And in the West, people say it was a defensive response to North Korea's unprovoked surprise invasion. But did it have to go on for that long? And all of that is a question. So I think that it's good to hear Anish's perspective on there. Thank you, Anish.
Absolutely. It's a question. It's a question. Miriam says a lot of people in New York City care about the World Cup, and there have been a lot of celebrations and outdoor viewings. And I think that's true. I think the question is going to be in terms of measuring, how you measure success for the World Cup. TV ratings will likely be high because it's easy to watch on TV. It's the question of how many tickets and how many people are in person particularly in some cities and for some of the teams, it's travel is more challenging. The international fans coming over, and then local fans who may have an immigrant background, regardless of their status, will think twice about going to a stadium where ICE has a very strong presence in these World Cup matches.
Have they announced that they will be there?
Oh, I think yes,
Oh.
and I know that the SoFi workers. I saw an article about going on strike because ICE has a presence at the World Cup.
Neil, here's what's happening, right? People like me and you who follow the news, who have a show about the news, who read a lot of stuff, we can miss so many things because there's so many bad things happening at the same time. Miriam, lots of people in New York City care about the World Cup and there have been major celebrations and outdoor viewings. I want to get some more of these comments in because there's so many great comments have come in. Miriam had said earlier, absolutely right about the coverage from the New York Post. Ironically, it was once leftish. This was about how the New York Post covers the Mamdani administration. And Stefan says the World Cup's coming, but now go Knicks. We're going to sweep at the Mecca, the Garden. That's the Madison Square Garden, Monday and Wednesday, baby. And he's talking about games 3 and 4. The Knicks have won the first 2 games. And so they have a
San Antonio.
Yeah, against San Antonio. The chance after decades, since 1973, it's been. And the Gov Ball is in Flushing Meadows Park this year. And Deborah is pointing out that the restaurant I mentioned in Asheville, North Carolina, named the number one restaurant in America, not number one Indian restaurant in America, number one restaurant in America a few years ago is Chai Pani, and it is the best. Always enjoy a meal or two when in town, chaipani.com. Neil and I went to the one in Decatur, Georgia, outside Atlanta, because there's a branch there, and we really liked it as well. John is watching and says in El Barrio, there are major watch parties in such places as El Barrio's art space. Diane says, hold your nose, Maine, and vote a Democrat. After all the Republicans put an alleged pedophile in office, bigger picture is what Democrats should look to. And Stefan says the Knicks ticket prices are insane. Such a shame that regular fans like this born and bred New Yorker can't even think about buying a ticket. $10,000 just for the nosebleed seats. The celebs, etc., own the seats now, including $250,000 for a front row ticket for one seat. It's not like the Super Bowl, Neil, where it's one game. This could be best of 7, so it could go on. John's pointing out interesting about how under the radar Pinterest is. We talked about that earlier. The battle between teens and the internet use reminds me of the times with powder sugar mock cigarettes and parent pushback against grooming. So many things like that, Neil.
Absolutely, Apollo. I'm glad that you raised that issue. It's I can remember it wasn't just powder cigarettes, but they had something called Big League Chew that I remember when I was a kid. So that it was like a wad of bubble gum that you could put into your mouth when chewing tobacco was more prevalent in major leagues. You could pretend to be a ball player with tobacco in your mouth, but it was actually gum. I'm so glad that you raised this. I have a very strong visceral reaction to any kind of tobacco use, smoking, vaping, etc. And this is certainly a strong connection in terms of grooming. I'll say, Sree, just for the point, my strong reaction is because my father started smoking when he was 15, and he died at the age of 65 because of the damage that it had done to his heart over many years. He had many years of a series of heart attacks and heart disease, but it was all because of smoking. It's something that I feel very strongly about.
Well, thank you for your advocacy on this. And we miss your dad, who is a mentor to me and to Saja, and who is here with us every day, because the reason you're here doing the show is because your dad loved newspapers. He became a newspaper publisher, and he loved the Times. And when he passed, he wanted to have to be cremated with a copy of the Sunday New York Times. So when you saw this friend of yours reading the New York Times, you jumped in. And so I feel like Uncle is with us every day when we do this. So thank you. And it just shows you 65 is so young. You know, I turned 56 this year. The smoking has a real price that people pay, not just for themselves, but for their families to be gone so early. I will watch a replay later, says Rahadian, en route from the Long Island to the Philippines Independence Day Parade in New York City. Have a great day, everyone.
That's great.
Yeah. For these NBA finals, just to add, he's talking about the tickets for this, for this. Regardless, he's always rooting for the Knicks. And Neil is reminding us that if you want to be added to our mailing list, send an email to neil@digimentors.group, and you'll get once a week a note explaining what we're up to, and you'll get those PDFs which you want. So a reminder, if you've just joined us, the New York Times has sent us a free exclusive PDF of its World Cup broadsheet that you can download on our website. So Neil, how do people find it?
Absolutely. They can find it by going to our website and looking for today's show. You can also go directly to tinyurl.com/NYTR World Cup, NYTR World Cup, and you can get this free PDF thanks to our friends at the New York Times. It's definitely, if you're a soccer fan, or should I say football fan, you definitely should check that out and download that, share it with people who might be interested.
Yeah, who care more about it than you. And Paulo is saying that Black Americans lost a great deal of political power in congressional representation in these new gerrymandering districts. The racism, anti-Blackness on the left is also an issue. Thank you for raising that. Deb says the Florida gerrymandering put Wasserman Schultz and Moskowitz in one district, forcing the two to choose a new district. Currently, the president of Kaiser College, Belinda, GOP, is to run in the new district, which includes Parkland, Weston, across Alligator Alley to Naples. And that's, of course, some inside Florida.
I was talking about that earlier. Wasserman Schultz is choosing to run in a district that has, been represented by a African-American legislator for the last several years. It is definitely raising the ire of local folks.
Miriam is pointing out in our discussion of just wars that America didn't enter the war until it was attacked by Japan, and that America turned away boatloads of Jewish refugees instead of fighting back and pushing back against Hitler. And if you haven't read it, there is Garden of the Beasts is the title of a book by Erik Larson about the U.S. ambassador's role during Hitler's rise and Hitler's before the war, what the American machinations were there in that. So it wasn't as if all of World War II was something for us, for our actions to be proud of. And also 2 days ago yesterday was the anniversary of D-Day, June 6, 1944.
That history of World War II, I think, has very extreme two extremes: the moral fight against Hitler as it was framed, and the absolute embarrassment of U.S. policy when it comes to how saving Jewish lives, turning away the ships of refugees, not letting, I think it was a St. Louis that was looking for a place to dock. The U.S., rightly so, can be proud of what they did on the battlefield and should be embarrassed to no end for how they treated Jews.
I think that's very well put. This is the book I was talking about, In the Garden of Beasts by Erik Larson, and it showcases the story that I was talking about. #1 New York Times bestseller, Love, Terror, and an American Family in Hitler's Britain. This is the best book by Erik Larson, according to the Times Review. He wrote The Splendid and the Vile and Devil in White City. It's just so upsetting. This is what's called novelistic history, and I recommend everyone read that if you want to understand how America was working with Hitler before we went to war with Hitler. We've heard that before, including Saddam Hussein, including Osama bin Laden. We've done all of that. Folks, we have 10 minutes left and still a lot to go with the paper. I do want to tell folks that we would love for you to check out my newsletter, which is Sree Sunday Note, and I'm just going to put this on here for you all to see. And this is sreenet.substack.com. I woke up early to finish it before the show so that you can all see it. And in it, we talk today about it's no longer red versus blue. It's MAGA versus everyone else. And if you don't want too much politics in your morning, you can also read this piece. It's a discussion I had with CJ Farley, the author. Is it possible to separate the art from the artist? We talked about whether we should see the Michael Jackson film. We talked about AI and everything else. His book, Who Knows You by Heart, was called by Walter Isaacson the first great AI novel, not written by AI, but about AI. So hope you will subscribe to sreenet.substack.com, and a big thank you to everyone who reads, who subscribes, who shares it, who comments, and especially to those who are able to upgrade to a paid subscription. It supports the work of the newsletter. It supports the work of the read-along. We don't have a mechanism for you to pay directly to the read-along yet, but we spend our Sunday doing independent journalism like this. And if you want to support us, sreenet.substack.com. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Miriam says, in reference to U.S. actions during World War II, more than embarrassed, they should be. U.S. should be ashamed for what they did. And Ellen says, as a counterpoint, they should have bombed, or should have bombed the train tracks and the trains, but Roosevelt wouldn't. That would have put a dent in the moving people to the gas chambers. So certainly some good conversation there. Sree, as we're getting close to the end, I want to make sure that we just put in a quick plug for an event that we're producing on Tuesday for the American Otological Society. These are ear surgeons. If anyone has ever had ringing in the ears, the American Otological Society is doing a webinar, Silencing the Noise, New Insights into Tinnitus. It's going to be Tuesday, June 9th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And it's being done in conjunction with the Korean Otological Society. It's going to be for Korea, it's going to be 7 a.m. Korean time the next morning. But I certainly encourage you to check that out. If you've ever had ringing in the ears, I will be producing this webinar for our friends at the American Otological Society. And thank you, Sujana, for all of your support over the years. Sujana Chandrasekhar is not on the card for this show, but she will be backstage helping with comments and helping to produce the show. So certainly encourage folks to check that out.
Yeah, I know people who had tinnitus. I don't know, how do you pronounce it? I'm not even sure, but ringing in the ears works, and I know how debilitating it can be. So, Neil, thank you for the work you do to help get medical knowledge out there with these shows. Wanted to show you the Netflix is on the cover of the Sunday Business section, and Netflix is done coddling Hollywood. Dan Lim, who is the chair of the Netflix film division, says that his goal is to make a big company feel small. That Netflix is such a big company, so he wants to do that. But he also, Netflix has so much power now, so he's kind of accepting that power. She confessed.
The big thing, Sree, on Netflix. Sorry to interrupt. The big thing is that they're no longer directors who come to them who insist that they want to have their movie released theatrically. They're not going to work with those directors. They're not going to let directors call the shots effectively. When you're Netflix and you have that much power, you can make that call and have that kind of impact. it is incredible in terms of the amount of production that comes out of a place like Netflix and even Apple TV. Sree, recently we've gotten into a show For All Mankind, which was from several years ago. Love it, right? For anyone who hasn't seen it, it's a counterfactual history of the space race, where the Russians land on the moon first, and it changes the whole trajectory. We're only a few episodes in, so no spoilers, Sree, and I don't want anyone else to share anything. But what's really more interesting is that they just came out with another show, Star City, which I believe is the same storyline, but from the Russian perspective, the Soviet perspective.
Yep.
So can't wait to see the rest.
It's very well done. And the other part of this is because it starts, they're not giving anything away in the first few minutes. It starts with a rocket landing on the moon. And it turns out it's not Neil Armstrong, but a Russian cosmonaut, and how the world history changes. And the loyal viewers of this show know that Parekh is named after Neil Armstrong.
Yes.
Not just the Indian name Neil, which also exists and spelled N-E-E-L, N-E-A-L, etc. But he is the name for Neil Armstrong, and he may not have been named for Neil Armstrong if it had gone the other way.
A quick note about politics for folks.
Maybe it would have been Yuri Parekh.
Yuri, the Alexei probably. The Alexei Leonov, I think, was the first Russian on the moon in the show.
Very good.
The one comment I want to make about politics for folks who like their history, folks may know the story about Ted Kennedy and Chappaquiddick back in, I think it was 69 or 70. He was on Cape Cod and drove a car off a bridge, and Mary Jo Kopechne drowned in that accident. It was a big scandal. It derailed a potentially earlier bid for the presidency. In this show, because of things, I think it was because of the Russians landing first, Ted Kennedy canceled his trip to Chappaquiddick and went back to Washington, D.C. for meetings. And in 1972, he's elected president. Mary Jo Kopechne is a White House aide, and she comes up later in the story. So it's just interesting what they're doing with changing just a few things here and there. It really just the impact on history is incredible.
So let's see here. Want to just show you a couple of things before we go. First, I'm sorry that our dog is making so much noise. Tara, this is more Marilyn Monroe. This is They All Prefer Being Blonde. For Marilyn Monroe's 100th birthday, fans transformed themselves to set a record. So this must have been 1,037 Marilyn Monroes. That doesn't sound like that many. Like you could probably, I'm surprised it's that few.
When I saw that, when I was setting up the paper on my end, just as a backup, Sree, that headline spells blonde, B-L-O-N-D. And I had to do a double take because I'm thinking, is that a copy editing typo on the cover of that section? I'm used to seeing blonde, B-L-O-N-D, with an E at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I looked it up, and those are actually both acceptable spellings, B-L-O-N-D and B-L-O-N-D-E for the color.
I did not know that. So I presume Time Style is without the E. Courtside looks that aim to dazzle. This is about mixing fashion and sports. A merchandise brand appeals to underserved female fans. And it's the Snyder sisters. What's the name of the brand? Okay, it's too much time. Let's see. The book review cover is Children of the Revolution, Keeper of My Kin, a stirring memoir by Pulitzer Prize-winning historian Ada Ferrer, chronicles her family's life in the aftermath of traumatic rupture. So that looks really powerful. The Metropolitan section cover how chess friends fought demons. An aging recluse, a scholar, and a homeless player of the game found hope in a trashed apartment by Central Park. Wow. And Rugged Bird faces local extinction. The black-crowned night heron has vanished from the city of New York. And the Arts and Leisure cover is Picking Up Skills to Play a Role. John Lithgow, Rose Byrne, and other Broadway stars on the obscure talents they mastered as a character. And this is Carrie Coon, nominated for a Tony Award. Tonight is the Tonys, as Neil was mentioning earlier. So I haven't seen much. I saw the Tony Awards are for Broadway, of course, and I saw The Lost Boys with my friend Mitra Kalita, and it was great. I don't know if it's in the correct cycle for this set of awards. The trend with blonde is toward the masculine spelling. Now, wait, the D is the masculine spelling? It's not obvious.
I'm guessing.
Okay.
I don't know.
And real estate cover, a solution arises in the back as communities debate whether to build housing and how to preserve older structures. A New Jersey project shows how opponents can find common ground. So that's nice, something perhaps positive. Ron Thomas is watching. Good morning, a little late, he says. And so many nice comments coming in. Patricia, thanks for another great read along. Happy Sunday from Fort Lauderdale, Dr. Tachi. And we have several notes here from folks, including from people who are still talking about the what happened in World War II. And I want to say thank you to Apollo for watching. This was a beautiful show. Happy weekend ahead. And blonde is the masculine spelling. Blonde is feminine. I had no idea. Till this moment. And
interesting.
I guess also in our minds, blondie, like the counterpart to the brownie or the cartoon, was, of course, it has an E in it, so maybe that's why. Typically, when English moves from one spelling for both masculine and feminine, it favors the masculine version. The patriarchy at work again. And the only exception I know of is widow. What is the other spelling of widow? What does that mean?
Well, it's widow and widower, I think. I don't know whether there's a different spelling.
There was an E at the end of widow at some point. Maybe there was. I don't know.
Maybe.
Thanks all too hot in New York. Terrific show. Thank you very much, everybody. We're back next week as we count down towards episode number 400. So next week, June 14th, is our 399th episode. We're taking Father's Day off on the 21st of June, and then we'll be back with a big show for June 28th. If you have ideas or what you'd like to see, please let us know. Wayne Camadoy, blonde is not noun, adjective for females. Blonde is for all applications as adjective and noun for females. Okay,
for noun males.
For males, I'll have to really think about that. Yes, widow is feminine, widower is masculine. Well, that I understood. Bye from DC, says Deb. Another Deb, great show. Good morning. We'll have to look up the book in the book review. Rose Horowitz, who's Women to Follow, is great. And the work she's been doing around getting women in AI to be followed and celebrated is especially great. Thank you, Rose. And thanks, everybody, for watching.
As we wind up, in case you joined us late, you can find the show from the beginning on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and our Digimentors website. If you want to catch the beginning of the show, and as Sree is showing the World Cup special, you can find the special PDF at tinyurl.com/NYTR World Cup. tinyurl.com NYTR World Cup. You can also just go to our website and look for the New York Times read along and today's episode and find that PDF.
I'm trying to do 398. I'm not sure I'm doing that right.
Oh, okay. Except for 398. Well, thank you very much. We'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.